Hey everyone, and welcome back to Audit Insights, the podcast dedicated to demystifying the world of auditing for CA students. I'm your host, your name podcast name, and today we are diving deep into a foundational topic, quality control in auditing. This isn't just about rules, it's about building trust and ensuring the integrity of financial reporting. We've got a fantastic set of questions from Chapter 1 of your Quality Control syllabus, and we are going to break them down, make them easy to understand, and give you those crucial insights to ace your exams and become top-notch auditors. So, grab your notes, maybe a cup of coffee, and let's get started. Alright, let's jump straight into our first scenario. Segment 1, When to walk away. Question 1. Imagine this, your SPS and Associates, statutory auditors for GREC Limited. For 2 years, everything's been smooth. But suddenly, GREC Limited diversifies into e-commerce and even international markets, areas where SPS and Associates just don't have the expertise or infrastructure. They want to withdraw from the engagement. Question 1. Discuss the issues that need to be addressed before deciding to withdraw. This is a classic real-world dilemma. As auditors, we need to know our limits. The core principle here comes from SQC1, Quality Control for Firms. It clearly states that a firm should only accept or continue engagements if it's competent and has the capabilities, time, and resources to do the job right. If you don't have these, withdrawal might be necessary. So, what are the crucial steps before pulling out? First, talk to the client's management and those charged with governance. This isn't a silent exit, it's a professional discussion about why you're considering withdrawal and what the appropriate next steps might be. If withdrawal is decided, clearly communicate the reasons. Transparency is key. They need to understand why you are leaving. Check for any professional, regulatory, or legal obligations. Are you required to stay? Do you need to report your withdrawal to any authorities? This is super important. You can't just pack up and leave if there are legal implications. And finally, document everything. Every discussion, every conclusion, every reason for withdrawal. This is your audit trail, protecting both you and the firm. Segment 2. Accepting new clients and staying sharp. Question 2. Next up, we have PQR Associates, statutory auditors for a large, unlisted company. They're about to accept reappointment, but there are some red flags, an income tax search, a promoter's brother entering politics, and a senior manager leaving, who's now offering accounting services to an associate company. Plus, PQR needs to recruit a new senior manager with specific industry experience. Question 2. Elaborate the matters to be considered by PQR Associates with respect to acceptance and continuance of client relationships considering the above issues. This question is a fantastic test of your understanding of client acceptance and continuance, drawing heavily on SQC1 and SA220, Quality Control for an audit. Before accepting or continuing, a firm needs vital information about the client. We are talking about integrity. Who are the client's key people? Are they trustworthy? The income tax search and the political connections are huge red flags here. PQR needs to assess if the company is involved in any funding to political parties and the risks associated with that. Competence. Does PQR have the skills and resources? The departure of the senior manager and the need for a replacement with automotive sector experience directly impact this. They need to ensure they can actually do the audit effectively. Ethical requirements and independence. This is where SA220 comes in. The engagement partner must conclude on independence. The former senior manager providing services to an associate company is a big independence threat that needs evaluation and mitigation. Communication. Clearly defining the scope and responsibilities helps manage expectations. Ongoing monitoring, client relationships are unstatic. PQR needs to stay informed about significant events, like the tax raid, to assess risks of misstatements or non-disclosure. Segment 3. The EQCR's role and resolving conflicts. Question 3. Our third question features CA Giri, a senior partner assigned as an engagement quality control reviewer, EQCR, for a listed company's audit. Question 3. What are the aspects which would be looked into by CA Giri as an EQCR in relation to the engagement? Upon completion of the review, CA Giri has identified certain issues with respect to revenue recognition and adequacy of provisions relating to onerous contracts. The views of CA Giri are not accepted by the engagement partner. Suggest ways of resolving the differences of opinion between CA Giri and the engagement partner. The EQCR is a critical safeguard for audit quality, especially for listed entities. As per SA 220, CA Giri, as an EQCR, would look at firm's independence. Is the audit team truly independent of the client? Consultations on difficult matters. Have significant issues and differences of opinion been appropriately discussed, and are the conclusions sound? Audit documentation. Does the documentation reflect the work done, the significant judgments made, and does it support the conclusions reached? Now, what happens when the EQCR and the engagement partner disagree? This is a crucial point for audit quality. SQC 1 is clear. The audit report should not be issued until these differences are resolved. If CA Giri's recommendations aren't accepted, the firm needs established procedures to resolve it. This could involve consulting with another practitioner or firm, seeking guidance from a professional or regulatory body. Segment 4. The integrity of audit documentation. Question 4. Let's move to question 4. TPX & Co., a large audit firm, maintains audit documentation both electronically and physically. The problem? Physical files aren't scanned or cross-referenced to electronic ones, and many working papers don't specify if information came from the client or the engagement team. Question 4. How do you view the above situation from the point of view of quality control system in audit firm? Analyze. This scenario highlights a major weakness in a firm's quality control system, specifically concerning engagement documentation. SQC 1 mandates that firms establish policies and procedures to ensure the confidentiality, safe custody, integrity, accessibility, and retrievability of engagement documentation. The issues here are clear. Lack of integrity. Not scanning or cross-referencing physical files means the firm can't easily demonstrate the completeness or integrity of its audit files. It also makes it hard to prove that files were assembled within the 60-day timeframe stipulated by SQC 1. Compromised data. If documentation can be altered or lost without the firm's knowledge, the integrity of the information is compromised. Source identification. Not knowing if information was client-provided or team-prepared is a huge problem. Audit evidence needs to be reliable, and its source is a key factor in assessing reliability. This could lead to non-compliance with standards on auditing. Segment 5. Timing is everything. Question 5. Question 5 presents a common timing issue. Pine and Associates completed fieldwork for BB Limited on 1st May, the engagement partner reviewed by 12th May, and the auditor's report was dated 15th May. However, the Engagement Quality Control Review, EQCR, was only completed on 18th May. Question 5. Comment. This is a straightforward but critical point about the sequence of events in an audit, especially for listed entities. SA 220 explicitly states that the engagement partner shall not date the auditor's report until the completion of the engagement quality control review. Why is this so important? Because the EQCR helps determine if sufficient appropriate audit evidence has been obtained. If the report is dated before the EQCR is finished, it means the auditor's opinion might be based on incomplete assurance regarding the quality of the audit. SA 700 also reinforces that the report date should reflect when sufficient appropriate evidence is obtained. In this case, dating the report on 15th May when the EQCR finished on 18th May is incorrect. The EQCR should be completed before the report is dated. Segment 6. EQCR Consultation versus Objectivity. Question 6. Question 6. PQR and Associates, statutory auditors of a listed company, face an issue with related party transactions. The engagement partner wants to consult the EQCR during the audit process. Question 6. Can he consult with engagement quality control reviewer? Discuss. This is a great question about the EQCR's role. The primary concern is maintaining the objectivity of the reviewer. If the EQCR gets too involved in the day-to-day decisions, their ability to provide an objective review at the end is compromised. However, consultation is allowed and often necessary. The key is that the EQCR should not participate in the engagement or make decisions for the engagement team. They can offer guidance and insights, but the ultimate decision-making responsibility remains with the engagement partner. So, yes, the engagement partner can consult, but it must be done in a way that doesn't compromise the EQCR's objectivity. Segment 7. SQC1's Broad Scope. Question 7. Beta Private Limited approaches a CA firm to prepare financial statements and issue a compilation report. Question 7. Does CA firm have responsibility in relation to quality control for above said engagement? Discuss with reasons. This is a quick one. The answer is a resounding yes. The service of preparing financial statements and issuing a compilation report falls under related services. And SQC1 applies to all types of engagements, including audits, reviews, and other assurance and related services engagements. So, quality control procedures are definitely required. Segment 8. Assembling the audit file. Question 8. Ramanujan, a CA final student, believes the engagement file should be ready before the audit report is issued. Question 8. Discuss whether Ramanujan's view is in order. While it sounds logical to have everything ready, Ramanujan's view is not entirely in order. SQC1 allows for a period after the audit report is finalized to complete the assembly of the final engagement file. This period is typically not more than 60 days after the date of the auditor's report. This allows for administrative tasks like filing, cross-referencing, and ensuring all documentation is in place. Segment 9. Resolving EQCR conflicts. Revisited. Question 9. BNE & Co. is auditing a listed company. An issue arises with revenue recognition, Ind AS 115. The engagement partner takes a stand, but the EQCR recommends otherwise. The engagement partner is unwilling to accept the recommendations. Question 9. How can this conflict be resolved? This is a direct follow-up to our earlier discussion in question 3. The principles remain the same. When the EQCR's recommendations are not accepted and the matter isn't resolved to their satisfaction, the firm must follow its established procedures. These procedures typically involve consulting with another practitioner or firm, consulting with a professional or regulatory body, and crucially, the audit report should not be issued until the matter is resolved. Quality takes precedence over deadlines when there's a fundamental disagreement on a significant audit matter. Segment 10. Client Integrity. a deep dive. Question 10. MB and Associates, a 7-year-old firm, is expanding and wants to work only with select clients to maintain quality. They're seeking guidance on matters to consider regarding the integrity of a client as per SQC 1. Question 10. Guide MB and Associates about the matters to be considered with regard to the integrity of a client as per the requirements of SQC 1. This is a crucial aspect of client acceptance. Before taking on any new client or even a new engagement with an existing client, SQC 1 requires firms to obtain necessary information to assess client integrity. This includes identity and reputation, who are the principal owners, key management, and those charged with governance. What's their business reputation? Nature of operations, what kind of business practices do they engage in? Attitude towards accounting and controls, are they aggressive in interpreting accounting standards? What's their internal control environment like? Fee pressure, are they overly concerned with keeping audit fees as low as possible, potentially indicating a desire to limit scope? Scope limitations, are there any indications they might try to inappropriately limit the audit scope? Illegal activities, any signs of money laundering or other criminal activities. This is a huge red flag. Reasons for appointment, why are they hiring your firm? And why did their previous auditor leave? This can reveal a lot. Segment 11. Tone at the top and quality culture. Question 11. Here's a challenging one. ABC and Associates has a policy for risk evaluation of clients. But then XYZ Limited approaches them. The promoter is a close friend of Mr. A, the managing partner. XYZ has regulatory inquiries, their previous auditor resigned, and they're offering 25% higher fees. Despite all this, Mr. A strongly recommends accepting the audit. Question 11. What is your understanding of the functioning of the tone at the top of the firm ABC and Associates, Chartered Accountants? What are the considerations one should exercise to uphold quality of the firm? This scenario screams bad tone at the top. The tone at the top refers to the ethical atmosphere created by the leadership of a firm. In this case, Mr. A's actions reflect poorly on ABC and Associates' quality control system. SQC 1 requires that a firm's business strategy should never override its commitment to quality. Here, commercial considerations, higher fees, seem to be dominating over quality and ethical concerns. Key issues: lack of independence. Mr. A's close friendship with the promoter is a major independence threat. This should have been disclosed and addressed. Client integrity concerns, regulatory inquiries and the previous auditor's resignation are massive red flags regarding XYZ Limited's integrity. SQC 1 explicitly states that firms should not accept clients lacking integrity. To uphold quality, a firm must ensure commercial considerations do not override quality. Personnel policies demonstrate an overriding commitment to quality. Sufficient resources are devoted to development and documentation of its quality control policies and procedures. Thorough client acceptance procedures are followed, assessing integrity, competence, and ethical compliance. Segment 12. Ethical lapses and quality control. Question 12. MNP & Co. appoints Sudhanshu, a paid CA employee, to conduct a stock audit. Sudhanshu uses this opportunity to try and get the client to hire their firm for accounting audits, even promising a clean stock audit report in return. Question 12. Is approach of Sudhanshu proper? How does it reflect upon the quality control system of firm? Sudhanshu's approach is a clear no. It is absolutely not proper. This is a blatant violation of the code of ethics and its spirit. It shows a complete disregard for professional conduct and independence. How does this reflect on the firm's quality control? very poorly. SQC1 requires that quality control policies and procedures be documented and communicated to all firm personnel. Sudhanshu's actions suggest that the firm's personnel are either not properly sensitized to these requirements or that the firm's quality control system is failing to enforce ethical behavior. It indicates a significant breakdown in the firm's ethical culture. Segment 13. Integrity check, money laundering red flags. Question 13. CAM meets a prospective client. During their discussion, it comes out that the client recently had a search by the Enforcement Directorate, resulting in a huge cash recovery, and the Income Tax Department also searched his premises related to bogus capital gains on penny stocks. The client complains about his current auditor and offers CAM a tax audit of 5 family firms to CAM in lieu of handsome fees. Question 13. What are the factors to be evaluated by CAM if he wants to take up the engagement? This is another strong client integrity question, very similar to question 10, but with even more serious red flags. As per SQC1, when considering a new engagement, the integrity of the client is paramount, especially regarding any indications of money laundering or other criminal activities. The searches by the Enforcement Directorate, ED, and the Income Tax Department, coupled with the recovery of huge cash and issues with bogus capital gains, strongly indicate that the client might be involved in illegal activities like money laundering. Therefore, CAM's evaluation should lead to one conclusion: the offer should not be accepted. Accepting such an engagement would expose CAM and his firm to significant professional, legal, and reputational risks. Segment 14. EQCR's mandatory nature. Question 14. JVN and Associates, auditors of a listed fintech company, get an expert opinion from ICAI on an in-as issue. Since the issue was resolved by ICAI's opinion, the engagement team believes the EQCR appointment has lost its relevance. Question 14. Do you agree? This is a straightforward yes or no with a strong reason. The answer is no, you should not agree. Engagement quality control review for listed entities is a mandatory requirement. The expert opinion from ICAI is about interpreting a specific accounting standard. It helps resolve a technical issue. However, it does not negate the need for an independent EQCR. The EQCR's role is broader. It's about reviewing the overall quality of the audit engagement, including independence, consultations, and documentation, ensuring compliance with all professional standards. It's a separate and non-negotiable requirement for listed companies. Segment 15. Qualitative reporting and SAR 220. Question 15. Finally, question 15. RST & Co. are auditors of a listed company. In their CARO 2020 report for statutory dues, they commented that the company is generally regular in depositing dues. Question 15. Is the above reporting qualitative and in line with the requirements of SAR 220? The answer is no. This reporting is not qualitative and not in line with SAR 220. SAR 220 emphasizes that auditors must implement quality control procedures to ensure the audit complies with professional standards and regulatory and legal requirements. The phrase, generally regular, is vague and subjective. CARO 2020 requires clear and specific reporting. Such qualitative and non-specific reporting indicates a failure to comply with the regulatory requirements of CARO 2020 and therefore does not meet the quality control objectives of SAR 220. Auditors need to be precise and provide clear findings, not ambiguous statements. And that wraps up our deep dive into Chapter 1, Quality Control. We've covered everything from client acceptance and withdrawal to the crucial role of the EQCR, engagement documentation, ethical considerations, and proper reporting. Remember, Quality control isn't just a chapter in your textbook, it's the backbone of the auditing profession. Understanding these principles will not only help you pass your exams but also lay the foundation for a successful and ethical career. Keep studying, keep asking questions, and we'll see you next time on Audit Insights.